Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to be talking about 10 movies I'd like to see come to the 4K Blu-ray format. We start off with 1968's Bullitt, starring Steve McQueen. This is a legendary movie and one of McQueen's best, with an action-packed storyline and the iconic Ford Mustang featured in the famous car chase. It's easy to see why it's achieved cult status over the years, and it would certainly be a huge hit with fans if it came to 4K Blu-ray. It's also quite surprising, as we're now several years into the format, how few of McQueen's movies have been given 4K upgrades. With many great classics in his filmography, I personally think it's nothing short of sacrilege. The film's audio is also in dire need of an upgrade, with the previous Blu-ray releases featuring a compressed Dolby Digital 2.0 soundtrack, which sounds dated and dull, and so at the very least, a lossless 2.0 or 5.1 option would be most welcome, or fingers crossed, maybe even a Dolby Atmos mix, which would revitalise the high-octane car chases and Lalo Schifrin's classic score. The rumour mill has certainly been active, with the possibility of this title already having had a 4K scan completed, so hopefully we see it sooner rather than later. Next up, it's 1969's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. This movie definitely has to be one of my favourite westerns, with a fantastic storyline at its heart and the brilliant casting of Paul Newman, Robert Redford and Catherine Ross, who really brought their characters to life with believable performances. This film without doubt sits among the all-time greats and is a must for the UHD format. The previous Blu-ray release hasn't aged too well either compared to today's standards, and does quite an injustice to Conrad L. Hall's Oscar-winning cinematography, which would not only benefit from a new scan and the increased resolution, but also improvements to the dynamic range with the HDR grading, especially the black levels. With this movie previously being a Fox title, it's now in the claws of Disney, who have been releasing a certain amount of their catalogue titles onto 4K, but at a bit of a slower rate than other studios, so let's hope it's not too long before it hits the UHD format. The movie is available in 4K on digital streaming platforms, though only in SDR, so hopefully a new master with the HDR grade could be on the cards for a physical 4K release in the future. Next, Sam Mendes' Rotub Edition. I personally regard this as the true modern classic, with a great cast led by Tom Hanks, Paul Newman, Daniel Craig, Jude Law, and young breakout star Tyler Hoechlin, and an emotional tearjerker of a story. This one was an easy pick for my wish list. The previous Blu-ray release hasn't aged too badly and does carry a decent presentation of the film, but a 4K release could definitely take it up a notch, especially the cinematography, which coincidentally is Oscar-winning again by Conrad L. Hall, who played around with a lot of dark and moody photography, which could easily benefit from a HDR grading. Thomas Newman's score is another big highlight of the movie and is presented quite nicely on the Blu-ray's lossless DTS 5.1 track, as are the environmental effects in the subtle and subdued scenes and the more aggressive elements in the action set pieces. So simply porting over this mix would be sufficient enough, but there is perhaps room for improvement with the Dolby Atmos track, particularly with certain elements like the musical score or the heavy rain, which could take nice advantage of the heights. This title is owned by Paramount, so the chances of it getting a 4K upgrade is relatively high, considering they're frequently re-releasing their catalogue titles on UHD, so here's hoping it could be on the horizon. Next on my wish list, 1974's Mr. Majestic. This is one of my favourite Charles Bronson movies after Death Wish, with a brilliant gritty 70s vibe and Bronson at his best again, taking out the bad guys in some great action set pieces, alongside a terrific supporting cast and a memorable score from Charles Bernstein. This title has had various Blu-ray releases over the years from boutique labels such as Kino Lorber in the US, who re-released it as recent as 2021 with a new 2K restoration, so a 4K is likely to come about in a similar fashion via one of the labels, with Kino upgrading both Death Wish and soon the mechanic to UHD. It seems even more likely. I always enjoy revisiting these classic Bronson movies every so often, and it would be great if my next rewatch was on 4K Blu-ray. Up next, it's Ewan Lloyd's 1982 film Who Dares Wins, also known as the final option in the US. This is one of the deeper cuts on the list, and one of my personal favourites, having now become a cult classic and being fondly remembered, especially for its lead star Lewis Collins, who came to this after appearing in the British TV series The Professionals. The film has had a few Blu-ray releases over the years from the boutique labels, namely Arrow Films in the UK in 2010, and more recently Kino Lorber in the US in 2022. All these releases have been sourced from older masters and are unfortunately riddled with faults, which don't look great with today's standards. So this is one title that's certainly in dire need of an upgrade and a fresh new 4K scan. The Blu-rays also came equipped with the 2.0 soundtrack, which although is serviceable, I feel it doesn't bring out the best in the film, and its terrific score by Roy Budd. So some form of remix would be appreciated, and as much as I'd like a Dolby Atmos mix, to be honest, I think the best we can hope for is a 5.1, which would be satisfactory enough. With another Ewan Lloyd classic, The Wild Geese, coming to 4K via Severin Films soon, this does hopefully bode well for this title to get a 4K release at some point in the future. Next is Hal Needham's The Cannonball Run. With an all-star supporting cast and a fun and engaging story that's always a joy to revisit, this is a classic example of the don't make 'em like this anymore. The film's various Blu-ray releases over the years, from HBO in the US, Medium Rare Entertainment in the UK, haven't really done the film great justice, with a myriad of different problems plaguing each release, such as the blatant use of DNR, which has given the image a waxy appearance, and altered audio, changing the sound of the cars. So it really is crying out for a definitive presentation on the UHD format. The other Needham and Reynolds classic, Smokey and the Bandit, was already had a 4K Blu-ray release back in 2021, so I think it's about time this title got a similar treatment, and with its 45th anniversary coming up, it's as good a time as ever. Up next, it's the Sam Peckinpah classic, The Getaway. This is another 70s classic, and one of my favourites in McQueen's filmography that I never get tired of watching, featuring a stellar cast with the likes of Ali MacGraw, Sally Struthers and the menacing Al Lettieri, and some real memorable action sequences such as the bank heist and outside the gun shop. Quincy Jones' musical score is another highlight and is integral to the film's atmosphere, and it's a real shame that the soundtrack has never had an official release. But it's an even bigger shame that we've not had a lossless presentation of the film's audio, with the ancient 2007 Blu-ray carrying a compressed Dolby Digital 1.0 mono, so any form of lossless audio option on a UHD release would be much appreciated. Very similar to Bullet, this one is also owned by Warner Brothers, and rumour has it again that this title has had a 4K scan completed as well, so I can see it coming to the format in the near future. Next, it's 1973's The Day of the Jackal. This is a brilliant, edge-of-your-seat thriller full of espionage and intrigue, with a gripping authentic performance from Edward Fox at the centre of it all. And what better to heighten an already immersive story than a 4K UHD release? Arrow gave this film its long-awaited Blu-ray debut in 2017, and in turn gave it a new lease of life with a satisfactory upgrade to the picture quality. But with some inconsistencies to the grain structure and the black levels, there is still undoubtedly room for improvement, which a fresh new 4K scan and a HDR grading could definitely bring to the table. Universal themselves did release this movie onto DVD worldwide, and then onto Blu-ray in Germany, so whether they decide to release it themselves or perhaps hand it to a boutique label, as we have seen with the UK and US Blu-ray coming from Arrow, either is possible. And with the popularity of the recent TV adaptation starring Eddie Redmayne, hopefully that will help get this classic onto the 4K format. Next, the penultimate title on my wish list, Blue Thunder. This movie's got a real cult following and a fan base which has only grown over the years. With its great storyline, strong cast led by Roy Schneider, and stunning aerial sequences, it's easy to see why. There are many aspects of this film that I think make it a perfect fit for 4K Blu-ray, such as the helicopter chases, which were largely done for real and could benefit from the increased resolution, the frequent night scenes which could definitely take advantage of a HDR grading, and on the audio side of things, a Dolby Atmos soundtrack could, if mixed right, make great use of object-based audio with the helicopters. This title is in the quite reliable hands of Sony, who have garnered a pretty good reputation for their physical media releases and are frequently going through their catalogue titles and re-releasing them with all the bells and whistles that the UHD format offers, so this has the potential to be quite an exciting release if it comes to fruition. And lastly, it's 2001's Behind Enemy Lines. This is another tense, edge-of-your-seat drama starring a young Owen Wilson and the late Gene Hackman that certainly deserves an upgrade onto 4K Blu-ray. The film had its Blu-ray debut in 2007, and for its time it carried some decent technical merits, with an adequate 1080p image and a good DTS 5.1 soundtrack, but with it releasing so many years ago, it's easy to see with today's standards where it could be improved upon. The location work and scenery around Slovakia, with the stunning mountain ranges, are one of the many elements that would benefit from a fresh, new 4K scan, whilst the film's cool and eerie colour scheme could nicely be enhanced with the HDR grading. But it's the audio that could be really taken up a notch, with certain scenes such as on board the ship, the aerial jet sequences and the landmine scene making it a strong candidate for a Dolby Atmos remix. This movie is in Disney's possession, so I'm not sure this one's in the near future, but it is its 25th anniversary soon, so I'd like to think there's a small chance it'll get an upgrade, as it would sure be a day one purchase from me and many others. So that's a wrap for my 4K Blu Ray wishlist. What movies would you like to see come to the UHD format? Let me know down in the comments below. Thanks for watching guys, enjoy your movies. Bye!